Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. Just over here at the patch near my new round of cauliflower seedlings, and what I've done here is interplanted it with a round of choy. I've just done that to take up a bit of that extra space and get that second crop out of the bed while I'm waiting for my cauliflowers to grow. What I'll be doing today is I'm going to be harvesting my first round of interplanted choy, and I'm going to go through how I go about harvesting it and how I go about washing and preserving the harvest ready for storage. This afternoon I'm over at my Brussels sprouts patch. This is the patch that I interplanted Pak Choi seedlings in between about 4 weeks ago, and at the moment they are way overdue to be harvested. So what I'm going to do through it now is to go through and harvest my choy plants and also just do some general weeding and some general maintenance on the Brussels sprouts patch. I'll get onto that right now. My Brussels sprouts here, I've got 2 rows and I've got 10 plants in these 2 rows. And at the time I planted these 80 centimeters apart. But what I did was to get a double harvest from this crop, actually interplanted with a whole bunch of Pak Choi. What I'm going to do now is these have obviously outstayed their welcome in between the Brussels sprouts. So I'm going to come through and harvest my crop. But then also what I'm going to do is actually do a bit of a weeding session. I do have a lot of chickweed growing in between these plants just to clear it all out, and probably add another round of nitrogen fertilizer to the plants, and just to do some general maintenance around the base of the plants, remove some of the lower leaves. So I'm just going to go through that right now. At the moment I'm having to go through and harvest all the choy that's growing in between the plants. These plants were planted 4 weeks ago, and in that time they've put on a lot of growth. So these will be a good harvest for me and my family. And they're looking quite good, so I'm really happy with their progress. And I'm actually happy with the second harvest that I'm getting out of this patch. So what I've done is I've gone through and harvested my whole crop. I had a lot of choy growing in there, and it's great to have that harvest. I took it all out of the bed. And then what I did was I've actually gone and cut off the roots first and then soaked them all in water. That's the first pass clean of the harvest. Then I've gone through and cleaned up all the chickweed and all the other weeds that are growing around the Brussels sprouts. I've also removed the lower leaves that were touching the soil, so that won't be a pathway for disease and insects. And they're looking quite good at the moment. They've got a lot more space now to grow, and a lot more space to breathe. So it was the right time to remove that crop. And so now what I'm going to do now is probably just give them one last side dressing of a nitrogen-based fertilizer, and then leave them to be. I will hill these plants as well to provide them extra support as they get bigger. As part of my leafy green harvesting regime, I do a deep wash of all the leaves before taking them to storage. What I do is I make sure, first of all, I do a superficial check on the plants. I clear off any damaged leaves and the roots at the base of the plants, and just do a general check for any insects. What I do after that is I do a first cleanse. I do a first spray just to get rid of any dirt and any other soil or debris on the plants. And I give them a really good hose with the wash down with the hose in the container. What I do for the second wash is that I add a good handful of salt and a good splash of vinegar into my container of water, and I actually soak my seedlings into that. And what that does is the vinegar acts as a sterilizer, so it sterilizes up the harvest, and the salt acts to clear up any insects or any pests that are on the plants, so slugs and aphids and the like. I let it soak for a couple of minutes. The salt works to dislodge all the slugs and the aphids off the plant so that you get a clean harvest. Once I've finished with my soak, what I will do then is I will rinse the plants, and I will put them away to dry off all the excess water before I store them in the fridge. So that's it. I've harvested my choy, and this is my cleaned harvest for the day. These will go inside now, let them drip dry. And then what I'll do is I'll store them in the fridge, wrapped up in a paper towel, in a plastic bag, and they'll last 2 weeks in the fridge now. As long as they're dry, they'll be fine. Yeah, I'm quite happy to be able to get that second crop out of that same patch of soil. So it really does, it really is rewarding to be able to get the double the harvest from your garden. So interplanting is the way to go if you want to increase productivity.